The dehydrator, West Side Dryer, had what they call a tunnel man. He took care of the tunnels and the heat and everything, drying the prunes. His name was Chris, and he was a Yugoslav gentleman. He told my dad one time, he said, "You want to try something good? Get a quart jar with a lid, come down here." So we went down there, and he took the jar and walked into the tunnels in the heat and took handfuls of hot prunes that were almost dried, put them in the jar and sealed them in there. He said, "I'll take them home and wait 6 months to eat them." They were like candy. They cured in that jar from being put, they were like they were being canned, you know, and they were great, super. Hello, my name is Dave Johnson from a ranch on Lawrence Road. My great-grandfather took title to this property, El Rancho Cuido, a land grant, after my Uncle Bev won it in a poker game when he was very drunk one night in Paris. He played poker with Emmanuel Arguello, who was the emissary of King Philip of Spain and had control of the land grants in California. I have the original abstract of title, titled Alviso Road, Lawrence Road, south of San Francisco Road, Cuido Rancho. The date on the abstract is January 29, 1915. This is when they started doing it with a typewriter. Before that, it was all done in pencil, in script. This is dated 1854. Soledad Manuel Arguello to Beverly, England. He wrote to my great-grandparents after he had seen the property and promised to deed them the land if they would come out to California and help him live out the rest of his days on the property. They set out in a covered wagon and finally made it to find Uncle Bev was telling the truth. It was beautiful and bountiful. We had apricots, pears, and prunes. Let's talk about the prunes. A prune is not a dried plum. The two are related, but that's all. A prune comes from a prune tree in a prune orchard. If you took one of Bob Butcher's prize plums, dried it, and called it a prune, he'd be very unhappy. Most people don't know that prunes are picked from the ground. When the sugar content is just right, the prune falls and is ready to be harvested. The picker places them in a bucket, they get put in boxes, and they were loaded onto a truck and taken to the dryer or dehydrator. Quite a few of us young, strong boys were hired at Sunsweet to operate forklifts, move the boxes of fruit off the trucks, and load them on the trays for drying, and then into individual designated bins to await packaging and shipping to the market. It was quite an operation. About 90% of the prune growers in the valley, all their prunes went to Sunsweet, a co-op. There was a large clubhouse called Napredoc Hall near our ranch where crowds of Slovakians, Yugoslavians, and other ethnic groups gathered for celebrations, dances, and barbecues. Many of them parked near our ranch and walked to the hall. Thinking that the fruit on the ground was no longer good because it had fallen, they thought it was okay to take some home for themselves. When my dad found them picking his perfectly good fruit, he asked what they were doing. They assured him they had not picked any off the trees, only off the ground. He explained that's the way they're picked, and they understood and no longer indulged themselves. When Lockheed moved in the 1950s, the ranchers started selling to manufacturing and housing because the city taxes rose too high to be able to afford operating an orchard any longer. The orchards started to disappear as the factories were built. Homes sprang up as workers arrived to fill the available jobs. Traffic increased, roads were paved, extended, and widened. Progress and growth meant that more schools had to be built for the growing families arriving. The whole valley began to change and the blossoms and fruit disappeared. My time on the ranch came to an end in 1961, the end of a lifestyle that I wouldn't have missed for the world. I'm glad I was born during a time when I could be part of ranching. And a prune will always be a prune, never a plum. My grandfather was born there, my dad was born there, and I was born there.